Can you hear me? Yep. Yes. Yes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, in entrepreneurship, that's what you call a disruption. Okay. We as startups and entrepreneurs, we go through disruptions all the time. So that was a technological disruption, and we apologize about that. But it's a learning curve in itself. If there's a disruption, we go back and try to fix it and move forward and plan for contingencies that it won't. And so we do apologize about that, but looking at the lighter side of things. As I was explaining, I know you all saw me as mute and probably saying invisible words, but I was just introducing the lady on my far left, Juliana Jan, who has joined Cradle Fund Sdn Bhd in the year 2004 and is currently the SVP for grants. She has an extensive and diverse experience in market research and grants as well as venture capital funding. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from the University of Missouri of Science and Technology. During her career is very, very interesting. She understands the needs of the market and the issues in the funding ecosystem from prototype development in the pre-seed stage, the seed stage, and up to the latter stage of fundraising. Now, Juliana is a very, very passionate person about helping entrepreneurs and startups. The knowledge and the know-how she gained prior to joining Cradle and also at Cradle has been invaluable in enabling her to assist Cradle recipients by advising them and sharing information about the market and funding the criteria. She very much we call in business a growth mindset, a mindset that always wants to grow and always wants to share. So very happy to have Juliana here. I'll ask all of you to applaud all the speakers once I finish introducing. So Juliana, thanks very much for being with us. And next to me right here, this very interesting looking man who looks like an engineer, but is actually more of a businessman. I said, okay, is Izad Muda. Izad is CEO of Inference Sdn Bhd. Izad is a tech entrepreneur and has more than 13 years of experience in the tech startup space. So don't let this young man's young looks fool you. He's got quite a bit of experience with him and he has no white hair. So, okay, which is a good thing. All right, so he started his journey as a programmer building, I'm calling you young, okay, programmer building consumer apps, enterprise software, autonomous drones, chatbots, and of course, what inference tech is all about, and his passion, AI. In his free time, he likes to go to the gym and watch movies that require deep thinking. So this is his deep thinking look right here. This is now it's a smiling look. So Izad has plenty to share. And last but not least, the man in the middle, Karl, who is the founder of and the CEO of ServisHero Group, founded in the year 2015. Now, I'm very fortunate that I've worked with Karl before, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. But I want to tell you the story of ServisHero. ServisHero is one of Southeast Asia's leading on-demand apps and marketplaces for blue-collar and essential workers. ServisHero is backed by some of the region's leading VC or venture capital funds, including Golden State Ventures and Cradle Seed Ventures. The group operates an on-demand consumer called ServisHero, www.servicehero.com, and an enterprise blue-collar worker solution called WorkMagic. You can find out more about that at www.workmagic.app. And the headquarters is in Malaysia. The group also operates in Singapore and Thailand. Karl holds an undergraduate degree in business and law, well, basically a common law degree, from the University of Auckland in New Zealand, and has a master's, an MBA, Masters of Business Administration from the University Oxford in the United Kingdom. So, he's been intelligent his whole life, and he's only still very, very young. The story that I have to share with Karl is that it's funny how the world comes around full circle from Kuala Lumpur to Dubai, because in the year, I think it was 2014 or 2015, Karl's business partner called me while I was on the way back to Malaysia from Singapore. That's why the world goes around, and called me and said, and this is an interesting part that Cheryl mentioned earlier. Cheryl from Grab mentioned earlier, she had to be the advertising person in the Grab ads. So, but Karl, he wanted to go one step further and hire talent, do all the speaking, to do all the acting for a commercial. So, but what he did in typical entrepreneur fashion, through his friend, he got me to do it for a very cheap price. That's entrepreneurship for you, okay? Yeah. Oh, okay. What? No, but that's what business is all about. You leverage off the relationships to get good output, and also this lowering your costs. And God bless, I don't mean to toot my own horn. Apparently, that commercial was watched a lot, and by a lot of people, not just in Malaysia, but globally. So, ladies and gentlemen in Dubai, and ladies and gentlemen from overseas, please give our panel a big round of applause. Okay, was this Izad, please, and then we'll go to Karl and then Juliana. Obviously, we all know about Cradle, but we want to learn about Juliana's side of the business as well. Can you tell us about your company and your views on business expansion and diversity? We'll go with you, Izad, then we'll go with Karl, and then we'll go with Juliana. And the microphone to you. Sorry.
Thank you, Ben. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Ben. Okay, I have two things to say. Number one, I'm very much an engineer. I look like engineer because I am one. And number two, even though I don't have any white hair, but I am balding. So yeah. Okay, my name is Izad. I represent Inference Tech's number hut, otherwise simply known as Inference. So Inference make hardware agnostic AI-driven solutions. Our AI can be integrated into multiple types of devices, such as drones, CCTV cameras, dash cams, body cams, even your mobile devices. So there are many use cases for this kind of new things. Among other things, our AI is powering up road inspection in several states in Malaysia. So currently, we are enabling our clients to inspect a total length of 5,000 kilometers worth of state roads and also expressways in Malaysia. We are very much B2B, enterprise-centric. We are currently servicing clients such as Petronas and various state and federal level GLCs in Malaysia. In fact, we recently signed a partnership agreement with Petronas. We are actually in collaboration with Petronas to co-develop and co-market AI-driven solutions within and outside Petronas groups of companies. So in fact, we're actually one of the graduates of Petronas's inaugural Future Tech Accelerator program, the very thing that our previous panel was talking about. So when we first started out 2 years ago, we're only a 2-year-old company. When we first started out, we only wanted to make AI software for CCTV cameras. But then again, it turns out that particular space is very crowded, very saturated with competitors from China mostly, from Taiwan, from Korea. So we had to do somewhat of a soft pivot. So we started to venture out and we started to make software for things other than CCTV cameras. So that means drones, that means dash cams, that also means body cams and stuff. So that's almost like a hard pivot because we totally had to rebuild our businesses, rebuild our solution. But yeah, to answer the question about diversity, so AI by nature is very diverse. It has the potential to be quite commonplace It has potential to be ubiquitous in our daily lives. So, but we did not plan to be diverse from day one, but we had to because of market demands. So when we did the pivot, after a while, it turns out to be quite successful because, yeah, we are here today. We are currently servicing multiple industries, the oil and gas industry, the road inspection, asset inspection, security and surveillance, and also drone industry. So yeah, we had to be diverse. We had to diversify our products and our offerings because the market demands it. Contrary to popular belief, Malaysia is in fact hungry for innovation, AI-related innovation. People always say that Malaysians do not understand AI, but I beg to differ. I am the living proof that Malaysian company, the Petronas of the world, Samdrabi Properties, Samdrabi Plantation, they are very much hungry for AI-related innovations. And we are more than happy. We were more than happy to cater to their demands. So yeah, that's how we came to be somewhat diverse, especially for a startup. So to be diverse for a startup is almost like a opposite of what we were taught, because we were taught to focus on just one thing and to do one thing really, really well, and not to, you know, for the lack of better terms, not to waste resources on things that do not generate returns. But again, I beg to differ. Even though people say that POCs, pilot projects, are startup killers, but again, I beg to differ. In our experience, it leads to actual, you know, long-term revenue streams. So yeah, you had to be diverse. If you want to be in AI, you had to be diverse. So yeah, thank you, Ben.
Thank you. And Karl.
Thanks. Thanks for the question, Ben. So diversity and expansion, my views on it. I think the first point I'd like to make about that when it comes to business building or startup building is that there's a time and place for everything, right? I'll talk about in 2015 when we started the company. ServisHero was a very broad-based marketplace that offered everything from cleaners to accountants and even coaches, right? Today, we're a much more focused company, one that focuses on home services and blue-collar work, so technicians like plumbers, cleaners, and electricians. So in industries that are very much related, right? Without that diverse set of experiences when we started, we would never have found the opportunities to focus on home services and the blue-collar industry. So that goes back to my initial point. There is a time and place for everything. I don't think there's a wrong or right way to think about diversity. But if you have a mindset that you should be open to diverse set of experiences or business opportunities, then opportunities will come about, which will allow you to eventually focus. Now, in terms of business expansion, we are a company that scaled very quickly. 2015, we started in Kuala Lumpur. Within a year, we were present in Singapore and Thailand, right? I think there was an opportunity for us to expand to more countries after that. But since 2016, we've concentrated on these three markets. So time and a place, I think it was important for us to use that momentum at the start to get our foothold into these three countries. Now we've got a lot to chew. So focusing on these markets and growing them based on the kind of opportunities that we've discovered. So yeah, so that's my perspective on expansion and diversity.
Cool. So we've got, someone from AI, Izad, and then obviously Karl from the apps business and that side of things. But we want to go to Juliana because Juliana, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially being the senior vice president of grants, and you've seen their journey from whether it was a successful journey, probably not the ideal journey. So can you tell us more about your role and and what you see basically from your lens?
Okay, yeah. You mentioned I joined Cradle since 2004. In terms of the companies we've seen, I think Karl mentioned the fact that when they first started, they were trying to do so many things, right? Targeting various markets and all that. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to that, right? It depends on the business. it depends on what stage. But typically, the ones that come to us, if they're developing a product, and they always tell us, "Oh, I want to develop A, B, C, D, E." We always tell them, focus on your product and focus on what's needed in the market by your client, right? Because typically they're doing validation and all that. You cannot be doing 10 features when your customer probably wants 5. Or out of the 10 features, they don't even want all of it, right? So we always advise them to focus, also based on the fact that they are very early stage. Typically, we find groups of individuals or startups who are probably 2-man team, so they can't be doing so many things. So again, it depends on what stage, it depends on resources, it depends on industry. Again, there's no right or wrong answer in that sense. But in terms of diversity, I would want to also touch in terms of Cradle's, what we fund, right? If you see a lot of other investors or funders, they focus on certain verticals. For us, because we are unique in a sense because we focus on startups. So we are creating the deal flow for the later stage. So obviously, we need to be diverse in terms of the companies that we fund. I think a lot of the startups here that we funded are from aquaculture, from agri-tech, AI, that sort of thing. So those are the things that, in terms of our offering to the later stage, we hope to, we are creating diversity in that sense, the opportunities for different types of businesses, startups that we can deal flow to the later stage. So these are the things that we try to emulate, because we keep on telling the startups, right, you have to diversify, you have to do this. I mean, when you first started focus, but eventually you have to diversify. But for us, we also trying to create that opportunities as well. Diversity in terms of the startup fund. So those are the two. I mean, I wanted to touch on that because just that I think we are unique in that sense. We're looking at it at 2 different point of view.
Well, that must be a fun job, not just a fund job. Okay, all right. But I just want to stay with you on the next question. You have seen, you've been with Cradle for quite a long time, and you have seen many things in terms of stories and content. And I know some of it is PNC and all the above. But can you just share with our audience here today, physically and our virtual audience? And every time I look there, that's the virtual audience right there, because that's where the camera is. But Juliana, the product and business life cycle of many businesses. Do you think? And maybe you can share some stories, or maybe there was a missed opportunity there that they didn't diversify, or maybe they diversified too quickly,
Yeah, I mean, again, in terms of whether there's missed opportunities, obviously, right? There's only so many that we can fund. But in terms of the companies that we look at, for example, like Inference, we recently funded them under CIP Accelerate. One of the things that we see the potential is they're doing AI. But in terms of AI, they cut across various industries. So those are the things that we think like, okay, if something happens to one industry, I'm not going to say any particular industry, but if something happens to one particular industry, the opportunities is there for them to explore other parts. In that sense, in terms of what do you call that? I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Yeah.
The word that you're looking for in terms of the opportunities, or
yeah, in terms of opportunities, again, it depends on the business, right? So, of course, there's lots of opportunities, but we think that we ourselves have to be, what do you call that?
I see where you're coming from, because it's quite a difficult question to answer in terms of like, I mean, especially when you're trying to respect people, I mean, certain companies' privacy and everything, because I don't know, I mean, I can't remember the statistic, but back a while back that probably even before ServisHero and your company was started, Izad, is that the failure rate was quite high because they didn't look at these sort of things. But we'll come back to you on that one. I mean, Karl, how about service heroes? I mean, what are the opportunities for service hero? And more importantly, if I can get more specific on that part of the question, what are your top 3 priorities over the next 12 months? Obviously, in the last 12 months, the obvious has changed the narrative and the mandate, how everybody does business. So give us the service hero point of view and story.
Yeah, sure. I think the last 18 months, the whole environment changed for doing business, right? And it was a great opportunity for ServisHero to reflect about what we should be focusing on, what areas of the business we should continue to invest in, and what new opportunities emerged because of the pandemic. One of the things that was most exciting for us was the rapid rise of e-commerce and an opportunity for us as a company that is providing services that are e-commerce adjacent to grow that service offering. We were able to secure Samsung Electronics as a major client during the pandemic. They shift their retail strategy from relying on offline bricks and mortar stores that would sell their appliances to one that was more focused on .com, their Samsung.com website. So today, ServisHero powers the installation for whiteware, that's air conditioning units, TVs, and washing machines across all Malaysia. And by providing a plug-and-play solution for Samsung.com, we increase the e-commerce conversion because you can't air conditioning unit online. You need the installation to go with it. So more and more ServisHero has pursued these enterprise clients, and now enterprise is by far the largest contributor to group revenues. So so e-commerce adjacent industries, the general kind of enterprise space for blue collar workers as well. And we've developed proprietary technology to manage those workers as well to deliver them more efficiently. Now, the second part to your question was, what are the 3 things that we're going to focus on?
3 priorities.
So for me, there's actually 2 things. And it's 2 things because I think the second point I'm going to talk about is with the value of 2 points, right? So one is that now that we've discovered an opportunity, that we've built a great product around the enterprise space, we're going to double down on sales, right? So sales and marketing around this Work Magic solution is something that we're going to be focusing on, right? We continue to grow ServisHero, and we've opened up ServisHero as with APIs as well. So third-party applications and companies are using ServisHero infrastructure to deliver home services. A great example is Singheng, the largest electronics retailer in Malaysia, has recently launched their super app, and we power the home services part of the Singheng app, right, through open APIs. Now, the last point that I talked about, what is that focus for our organization that's so important? The mental wellness of our team is something that has become a top priority for us. So the last 18 months, our team has been working remotely, largely working from home, isolated, working very long hours. We launched new products, a new division of our company. There was a pandemic, and we are now taking very proactive steps, and we will continue to look after our staff to ensure that we can continue to grow and operate effectively.
Right. Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that, Karl. Now, Izad, what about the AI business? I mean, it goes back to what Juliana was saying, the sense that her advice to many businesses out there is like, look, give the market what they need, not so much what you want. I mean, Izad, I know we've only known each other for a very short time, but from the time that I've got to know you is that you're very passionate about the AI business. You love it. Like you just said, you started your conversation with saying, I'm an engineer. That's my passion. And that's great. But and Juliana, you can back me up on this. Your challenge in your industry is that, is of emerging technologies. That emerging technology might make your AI, your passion, redundant. God willing, it won't. But you never know with these things. I mean, the way our global society is evolving is really, really inspirational, but also a bit crazy and a bit scary. So can you tell us about the emerging technologies in your space and the sustainability and those emerging technologies, how is that affecting your sustainability of being in the business and being your own boss at the same time? Make sense? Sure. Kind of. You just press the button right there to get the answers. You know, you're a real engineer, okay?
No, this is my cheat.
Okay, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Before I answer your question, I would like to add a little bit on what Juliana was saying earlier. The cool thing about being so-called diverse is that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So the bulk of our revenue came from Petronas through our partnership with Petronas. But I've talked to several BCs that bring up this very interesting point. What if Petronas, not on words, God willing, again, not on words. What if Petronas cut out our contracts for whatever reason, right? So what happens to us? So yeah, that points made me sleepless for many nights lah. So that's part of the reason why we had to branch out to different industries, to different clients lah. So now we're quite diverse in the sense that we're not just catering or servicing just Petronas, but we're also servicing other conglomerates as well. So yeah, it's a type of risk management. I think perhaps that's the way you were trying to find before. It's this type of risk management. You have to manage risk. So Petronas because Petronas is in the energy or gas sector. That particular sector is not really stable, for the lack of better terms, not really stable these days. So you have to look for alternatives. Okay, to answer questions when it comes to sustainability. Yeah, AI is obviously an emerging technology. We're also talking about drones, IoT and stuff. So 3 things that we know really well about. So when it comes to sustainability, AI is actually, even as we speak right now, AI is being used successfully to build a sustainable future. Some very smart people at Google, some very smart people at Amazon are actually building this AI model. And AI model is like a brain, basically. So they're building an AI model to reduce the energy load of their data centers by, 40-50% maybe. And yeah, Google is cool, Amazon is cool and everything, but I would like to take this opportunity to bring this thing somewhat closer to home. In our experience, again, at the risk of putting the names of Petronas, closer to home, we and Petronas is actually in collaboration to develop this thing called AI-driven solar farm inspection. So what that means is that we're using drones, AI, and other types of robotics to inspect and maintain solar farms that belongs to Petronas. So that's a solution that we're working with Petronas. The cool thing with this partnership that we managed to deploy our somewhat experimental, somewhat unproven technologies within Petronas group of companies. So that means plants, refineries, project sites, petrol stations. We have a project at the petrol station running right now. So yeah, that's cool. So in the sustainability and in the new energy punya scene, we are working with Petronas to do the automated and fully autonomous inspection of their solar farm. So the whole thing will be autonomous, humanless. So we're going to inspect their solar farms and look for anomalies, look for defects, and then we'll produce analytics and all sorts of reports to maintain the solar farms. Otherwise, because if you've been to a solar farm, it's like super duper big. So if you were to inspect the solar farm manually using actual human being, it would take a lot of resources and it will take a lot of time. So that's why we are collaborating with Petronas to automate if not 100%, maybe 95% of the entire workflow. So that's very much in line with what Petronas and the entire government is looking for. Petronas has been going green in the last 2-3 years maybe. They even set up a new division called Petronas Gas and New Energy. So we are very much happy to help them and to contribute any way we can to build a sustainable future for our children. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now I'll go to Karl and then I'll go to Izad for the next question. And gentlemen, I'm not expecting a sugar-coated answer, to be very honest, but Juliana has said, and Juliana, I consider you a friend as well in terms of the time that we've known each other. Coffee shop or just while we waiting for study or we speak about how the government has helped the businesses there, and I mean, in Cradle's case, helping ServisHero, helping Izad's company, once upon a time helping Grab, and there's a list goes on and on and on. And the Malaysian government, I mean, does a fantastic job in these sort of things. I only have one criticism of that is that the Malaysian government does not tell the whole wide world what kind of a great job they do. I think in that department, Malaysia, I mean, we really need to develop our marketing skills. Compared to other countries, they do one thing right, the whole wide world knows about it in 3 seconds. I did a good job, So I was like, wow, why can't we do that? So can we just start with you, Karl, in this terms of question? Can you tell us how the government has helped you, scale up, achieve new goals, and really help your business evolve? Same question to you, Izad, after Karl.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about 3 ways that the government has helped ServisHero. I think the most obvious is, Cradle Seed Ventures invested in our Series A at the end of 2015, beginning 2016, a very early stage for the company, obviously very high risk. And I guess that level of confidence that the government had in me and my team to execute.
So you were a high-risk business, yeah?
Yeah.
Consider high risk.
Yeah.
See, the Malaysian government invested in their business when they were a high-risk business. Malaysia boleh. Okay, continue, please. Yeah.
So, so I think backing, high risk opportunities like ServisHero is a very obvious kind of example. So they participated in our Series A. The second example is events like this. So here I am in Dubai at the World Expo, brought over by Cradle, and I've had an opportunity to meet with other investee companies, and we've actually talked about deals together. So this type of ecosystem building, meet and connect the dots with other people of the Cradle. Very Cradle continues to do that, and has always done that, right? So there's always been opportunities for us to cross collaborate and create value, and where possible, introduce us to opportunities that could become a business deal. Now, the last point I want to make is something very relevant in the times of COVID-19. So ServisHero operates in 3 across, and we know what pandemic has been each of these countries very well. And ServisHero is a recipient of relief funding from Malaysia Debt Ventures, right? And Malaysia Debt Ventures rolled out a relief fund for tech startups very early on in the pandemic. And out of all the countries that we operate on, it was the biggest, most significant deployment of support for a tech startup that early on in the pandemic. So for that, I'm very grateful. Right?
Very, very grateful. Okay, fantastic story right there. Izad?
Okay, how did the government, or how does the government actually help us to grow? We're actually one of the recipients of Cradle Accelerate funding program. It's a grant, basically. It's a research grant. So the grant allows us to be more adventurous when it comes to R&D. What I like the most about Cradle is that its most recent focus on nurturing deep tech startup. Because we're in AI, we're very much deep tech. You can't go deeper than that when it comes to technology. Yeah. So the grant, the program, the fund allows us to be more adventurous when it comes to R&D. Before Cradle came into the picture, we did a lot of D, but very little R. We developed a lot. We developed lots of MVPs with many sleepless nights, but we did very little research. I think my good friends from Nuan AI can attest to that, right? Sometimes, most of the time, clients wanted things really fast. They asked us, can you show me a little demo of how your AI works, right? So yeah, we had to develop some sort of demo or MVPs or POCs really quick. So very little research went into it. So the whole thing is not academic at all. It's very hackish. Again, speaking as an engineer, it's very hackish. So the grant allows us to be more academic. So we actually, in fact, the bulk of our fund goes to R&D and also IP protection and stuff. So yeah, now we can invest on buying experimental hardware, some fancy cameras from overseas. We can invest on, spinning up super duper expensive cloud servers and stuff. So AI, mostly something that most people do not know about AI is that AI is super duper expensive. Again, my good friend here, I've talked with them yesterday. Sorry for telling them this. I'm making a point here. They just invested hundreds of thousands of ringgit to set up the servers at their office in Kuching. Kuching, right? Okay. So yeah, I was in awe because that shows a level of commitment in perfecting their craft. Because even though we cannot afford to invest hundreds of thousands of ringgit into buying servers and then GPUs and stuff, but I was impressed lah. So yeah, my point here is that AI is not cheap. So Cradle came at the right moment where AI is just started to boom, for a better term. And yeah, the grant really helps us when it comes to R&D. Other than that, again, the government of Malaysia, through its many GLCs, the cool thing about GLCs is that, for the lack of a better term, they are very cash rich lah. They can afford to, perform POC that might or might not go anywhere. So yeah, we've talked with a lot of federal level and state level GLCs. They are more than willing to experiment lah. So Inference as a startup, it's just a random startup coming from where we are barely 2 years old. So the government of Malaysia, through its many GLCs, actually put a lot of faith in us. Because like you mentioned earlier, most startups fail very early. But we are 2 years old and we're still standing. All that thanks to the government of Malaysia. Because again, through Cradle and also through its many GLCs, they actually put a lot of faith in us, even though we are very new. And then again, we also high risk. Yeah, that's a very good point. The government put a lot of faith in us, even though we are very high risk, we are very experimental, we are unproven. So yeah, thank you very much, the government of Malaysia. Thank you, Cradle.
Go Malaysian government. That's what I'm saying right there. So I'm gonna just have one more question to Juliana before we open questions from the physical floor and possibly the virtual floor. Juliana, I know I shared with you the questions earlier, but I'm just going to twist this question a little bit. Don't worry, nothing out of it, something that you can answer. Okay, Karl, Karl's laughing at you at the moment. Yeah, Karl likes teasing people. That's, it's okay. But I mean, tell us, you funded these two, Cradle funded these two businesses. Karl said it best himself. ServisHero, once upon a time, was seen high risk, high cost. But one thing that we learn about investments and investing in businesses is that you always look at the X factors. You always look at the intangibles. Okay, the numbers may not numbers may not add up. Okay, the mathematics and the science don't add up. But there's something about the I word, the innovation word, said this can be innovative. So maybe you can share with the audience some success stories about those factors that Cradle looks for, the government looks for, that and it results in reaping the rewards of two successful businesses who are still standing and doing quite well despite the pandemic.
Yeah, actually, because we're the first point, right? So a lot of these startups actually come to us. As mentioned, some of them at one point we funded a group of companies. They don't even have anything. They come to us. But I think we have, because it's also a developmental fund, we have to look at it as what's possible, what it could be in 5-10 years. Obviously, we want to take the risk on companies that we think can survive, of course, provide jobs, create revenue, GDP, and all that. But we usually try to look at companies that the rest might not want to look at yet at that point in time. I always believe in not trying to follow the trend. Personally, I try not to follow the trend because let's create the trend. Let's create this flows for the later stage to fund. So in that sense, in terms of success stories, there's quite a few, but I would want to mention a few. Yeah, one of them is Naluri. I think when they first started, a lot of people were asking, why are they looking into mental health or wellness, all those things. But we funded them under CIP 300. and we've also funded them for CIP Accelerate. So we actually came in 2 rounds. We look at it as that's the next big thing, right? It's not just, especially with the pandemic, it's not just about your physical wellness, it's also about your mental wellness. It's the whole package. So it's, to us, that's important. And they recently, I think early of the year, managed to raise like 5 million USD. Of course, to us, as long as our companies move to the next stage, that's success. It's not, maybe not unicorn yet. Hopefully, they'll become one of the unicorns. But so yeah, yeah. So for us, they raised the next round. For example, I think this one was a couple months back. Delivery, they were acquired by Teleport. We funded them under CIP Catalyst to develop the platform, and we funded them again under CIP 500 for them to commercialize. Other than that, Superhand acquired by Omnilytics. Then there's a lot of that, right? So way back many years ago, probably more than 10 years ago, one of our companies, Azure Lab, was acquired by a French telco. One of our companies, again under investment, one of our first, actually our only exit so far, acquired by Australian company, SIG. So those are the things, because a lot of people question us, why are you funding some of these companies when nobody were looking at them at that point in time, right? So to us, it's about taking the risk, because we can afford to say we took the risk because it's early stage, and also giving them opportunities for them to move to the next stage, either creating all this revenue, either creating in terms of further funding for them. So these are the things that we try to provide for the ecosystem. And also for me personally as well, for Cradle, it's our success stories.
Oh, nice, because that's great stories to share. That you mentioned 3 companies right there, and there's also 2 companies right here who are proof of that. So the 3-2 approach. Okay, so yeah. That's why Karl is so nice to Juliana all the time. He's like, oh, without Cradle, I mean, seriously, Karl is a friend. He tells me, without that injection and the help, really help them take to the next scale, as well as Izad's business as well. Like he said, he did a lot of D, but didn't do a lot of R. But with the investment put in, he can do a bit more of both. Okay, so, and look at other opportunities as well. Look, everybody, it's been a great casual session, a nice way to end the day. Okay, so it's been a very, very positive day as well. A lot of things that we've learned today, a lot of milestones being hit today. We've got about 10 minutes left. Anybody has any questions for the panel right here? I've just checked the virtual questions, and there's a physical question right here. So, yep.
Yeah, Izad, I'm Tan from Malaysia. We are an electric bicycle manufacturer. You're doing it. You're doing it. Okay. Okay. So actually now we are moving from very small, Dr. Nagu. Okay. When we started with the Mosi, we start develop electric bicycle now to the world. Okay. Next year we're going for IPO. Okay. So the next level, AI. We're going for autonomous with the gyroscope. Can you do that? Actually, I'm going to sign a contract. I'm going to sign a contract with Huawei. Okay? Open up for the local aeronine. We are the same. Any taker for the Cradle, for the autonomous and gyroscope in Malaysia. No, this is a big opportunity, because why now Voltron is to the world, 60 over country where supply from Sungai Petani, very small, growing and IPO next year. So if I'm doing AI, I offer this because I'm going to sign contract with Huawei. So if local expert can do that, why not? Work as a team. Work as a team for whole Malaysia, actually. By myself, I don't have enough time. I'm all ready for the technical, okay?
Uh,
Yeah.
as a rule of thumb, when it comes to requests or demands or potential collaboration for new things, always say yes and figure things out later. So again, it's a big yes. So we can take this offline. We can discuss later. All right.
Don't do what some people do, and this is how they say no. Be honest also lah. Really love your vision, helping locals. Please try to find 50 more of you and then bring them here. And then you like, no, I'm just kidding. So no, great mindset. We spoke about, yeah, that's right. Because no, today, the theme of today, even though we spoke about different topics, all the panels spoke about mindset, whether it was Grab, whether it was Petronas, whether it was MAFCAP, whether it was, the other companies. Yeah, okay. Malaysia, build the Malaysian ecosystem. Yeah, build the Malaysian ecosystem. Be with us here, brother. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Yes. One question. We got one question here. Anybody else? Okay, I'm sure. Two. Okay, great. We've got time. Even if we run over 5:30, it's fine. Don't forget to introduce your name and also, is the question directed to the panel or an individual of the panel?
Assalamualaikum, very good day. I'm Izad from Inference. Not really a question, two statements to make, if I'm. To answer to our gentleman from Voltron, he's not around. I'll wait for him to come back. But second statement, I think I'll jump to my second statement. It's more of compliment, and I would like to applaud Cradle Fund for all the good effort have done all this while. Of course, when you talk about ecosystem of the startup, Malaysia we are actually way back behind compared to other countries in terms of investment in startups. We are not as rigorous as United States, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and so on. But I believe Cradle has done a good job in promoting this kind of investment. And I think you have been doing this not for the last 1 or 2 years. It has been more than that. But we, being part of the recipient of this Cradle, we just got to know a bit about you guys only just recently. Unfortunately, apologize for that. In terms of what you have been doing all this while, what you have done and what you are going to do in the future, I believe now you have awakened all the talents, be it Petronas and so on. And of course, when you talk about Petronas, we were part of the graduates for Future Tech 1.0, and it was only, and they first to invest into. And now, going to Future Tech 2.0, you have Petronas, Samdabi Plantation, and also Telecom on the same boat, promoting the investment into what we call have done in promoting the startups and awaken the giant. So I hope this will more investment or acknowledgement or testaments towards the cities and also towards the startups moving forward, because we need this kind of thing. We want to be par. I mean, maybe Singapore, maybe US, maybe they are leap and bounds, maybe 10 times. At least we try to compete with Singapore. I think we start with that first. So again, our gentleman from Voltron is not here. Yeah? Here or not? Okay. So the first part, I'm sorry. The second, I think I covered what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much, Cradle. Thank you very much, the government of Malaysia. I think you guys have done a good job. Of course, there are still lots of room for improvement, but let us work together. Although we are your recipient, I believe we can contribute some ideas on how to nurture the future startup moving forward. Okay, and I'll go straight to my first point since our gentleman is not here. So I'm very interested with the fact that Mr. Okay, so he was mentioning about he talked Huawei had agreement with Huawei. What we would like to do of you audience here, both in Dubai and globally, the same conglomerate Huawei actually approached us Inference back in 2020. There was one solution. There is one that we did that attracted their interest. And until before the pandemic, we were in touch with Huawei on this. I personally was in Singapore, the AI lab of Huawei. We were supposed to have the in Shenzhen for one of our solutions. So what I'm trying to say, that whatever Huawei wanted, we actually are doing that. We have developed some of the solutions that they are doing, but what we have in our store, in our stable, something that they don't have. And they were interested to buy that solution before. So actually, we are there as well. We are comparable at par with them. It's that we are just 2 years old to them, and we are not as cash rich as them. But I think with the resources and support from the government, we will be at par or even better than them. I think we are more than happy to be there. Thank you very much.
One thing that we do not lack is confidence. Yeah.
That's part of the game. So what was your name again? Izwan. So now, Izwan, how many followers do you have on Facebook? Okay, what you do after this, you do me a favor, okay? Or do us a favor. You go to all your favorite friends on Facebook, do a video of what you just said about the Malaysian government doing great things. Seriously, because like we said earlier, and I know Rafiza and Dr. Nago were agreeing with me, I used to work for the government as well. So I always feel that, you know, government servants, civil servants, and the Malaysian government in helping the private sector or startups don't get enough credit. So what you just said, spot on the money, spread the word, please, brother, if you don't. The gentleman at the back, the question right there with the red shirt.
Hi, my name is KK. I'm from Exponential. I do a lot of things. And I guess my question today is, I'll hashtag, right? Kita jaga kita. Yeah. So, startup ecosystem, competition, other companies, I think, world, how can startups in this ecosystem help each other? Yeah. So that, you know, young somebody be cool, we can help her and really. Right. What's opinions on that?
Who wants to start this one? Karl, go.
So I've had the experience that Malaysian startups are really generous with information sharing and informally creating groups to share knowledge. I'm part of several WhatsApp groups with founders of very prominent startups across the region. And a great example is when the first lockdowns started happening in March 2020. Immediately, a lot of the founders came together onto the group chats, sharing reports, knowledge, information that they had heard from overseas, strategies about thinking about the staff welfare, cost cutting, where to get grants if it was required. So I think if we continue to have that spirit of being generous with our knowledge and generous with our time, I think we'll all do well. And even just being here in the pavilion with so many of the startups related to Cradle and Mosti, it's been really refreshing because I think everyone's just really got along, and I think there's potential for us to work together too, right? Like that we just talked about yesterday. So yeah, I think that's how we do it. I think we're already doing a good job. I think many of the kind of formal institutions maybe don't know about these informal networks that we have, and maybe we should tell you more so you can get involved as well. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
In the AI space, because it's such a new industry, such a new space, we cannot afford to fight each other. When I met my colleague here from New AI, it took us only 10 minutes flat to basically collaborate on our first project together. Potentially. So if anything, we have to band together, because I know maybe like 3 or 4 people that are doing AI. I mean, local startup founders that are doing AI in Malaysia. We cannot afford to fight each other. If anything, we have to band together to fight the Huawei's of the world, the SenseTimes of the world. I mean, no offense to those. Yeah, exactly. So, so we have to fend off competitions from overseas because, again, contrary to popular belief, we do have a lot of engineers. I can personally attest to that. We have data scientists, we have AI engineers, we have experts in computer vision, machine learning and stuff. So yeah, And then we have the capacity to actually create talent. If the talent is not there, we have the capacity to create talent. Because I've been talking to Casey here from AI, they also actually recruit a lot of local Sri Lankan talent and then to work on many AI projects. So yeah, that's what we're doing as well. So we're creating talent. So yeah, that's how we help each other out. So if I may introduce one hashtag, which is hashtag share. So kita. Thank you. Key subject.
That's a good idea. Talk to each other later so we can get Juliana's view. And then
Yeah.
we can conversation offline. Sorry, just time. Juliana.
Yes, I think actually for our startups, that's something that we push for. I mean, there's only so much funding we can provide. Yes, we provide other value-added services, but we always tell our startups, let's win it together. At the end of the day, let's not kill each other, because sometimes, of course, some startups might think like, but they're in the same market. It's like, yeah, but the market is big enough. Why can't you work together? Right. Another thing is for our senior startups to pay it forward. How can they help the younger startups to succeed? What are the failures? What are the learning points that they've learned throughout the years? What to do, what not to do. So these are some of the things that we encourage within Cradle. Again, the WhatsApp groups and all that. We have, I think, Izad knows that once you join the fraternity, you're into a WhatsApp group. That how can you help each other? Because there's only how many of us in Cradle? We can't help the hundreds of companies that we funded. So we ask them to help each other. So it's very important. Yes, that's one of the, I think, key points of a startup wanting to be within the Cradle ecosystem, because to them, at the end of the day, money I can get from elsewhere. But I want to be in the ecosystem, to be part of this startup ecosystem with the rest, and obviously for other things that we can provide them. Yeah, but yeah, it's very, very important.
And to
Helping each
conclude,
other.
Juliana, because we're
Yeah.
going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hold the microphone right there, because Izad said share hashtag. What's your hashtag for the learning of this session? Hashtag
For me, it has always been paying it forward. So hashtag paying it forward. It's cliche, I know, but yeah.
Okay, and what's your hashtag? You can't use ServisHero, okay? Okay.
Hashtag seize every opportunity.
Very much, Karl. Before we give them a big applause, let's just wrap it up. Topic today, everyone: perception versus reality. Is your business really diverse? Well, to answer that question, let's look at the hashtag this session, and that will help you answer: is your business really diverse? Because kita jaga kita, share, pay it forward, seize the opportunity. So look at those hashtags, connect the question to your business, and to see how diverse you really are. Look, on behalf of everybody here at Cradle, the organizing committee, we thank the panel for taking time to share with us here today, not just here in Dubai, but also overseas. You brought up a lot of great points, that there's so many opportunities here. I mean, through Malaysians, because we Malaysians, again, thank you, gentleman from Voltron here that said, look, I want to give an opportunity to Malaysians. You want to give an opportunity to Malaysians. Is that you mentioned, look, yeah, I got my first business deal in 10 minutes. You know, I don't know any other country that can do that. Okay. And like, you know, because people here are open, the growth mindset is great and everything like that. And I'm not trying to put in a plug for Malaysia, but again, Malaysians do great things. And, you know, yeah, Malaysia boleh. And we don't want to just to do it Malaysian to Malaysian. We want to go over the sea, overseas, and do business with the globe. So please invest your time with Malaysia. Come and have a chat to us at the good people at Cradle right here at the pavilion in the Dubai Expo. 2020, and it should be great. So let's give a big round of applause for Juliana, Izad, and Karl. A round of applause. Well, my name is Ben Ibrahim. Don't forget, I'm just going to wrap up today. So I'm going to take this session has finally finished. So just to wrap up today, it's been a great today. We had the opening this morning, and then after that, we had Rafiza giving her keynote speech, and then after that, another keynote from Cheryl from Grab. It was a great story, some great stories right there, and that trickled a number of great stories. And after that, we had a great panel from the investment point of view from Malaysia, one from Petronas, speaking about the investment opportunities in Malaysia, and there were some great questions there, positivity right there. And finally, we had our first physical moderated session of the day. And again, not only was the panel great, but the audience was great in terms of not just sharing their views and their opinions, but sharing what the Cari Makan opportunities, which is feeding the rice bowl opportunities from the ecosystem that's happening in the pavilion building right here in Dubai. But we're not just here in Dubai, we're with you in Malaysia, we're with you from around the world. Please join us this week on all the respective social media platforms. Ask questions, in my opinion, or in our opinion right here at Cradle. There's no such thing as a silly question, because the good old business philosophy, you don't know if you don't ask. So always, always continue to ask. My name is Ben Ibrahim. It's been a pleasure to be your MC and moderator for day one. But don't forget, we've got day 2, 3, and 4 coming up in the next few days right here at Pavilion, right here, Dubai Expo 2020. Have a great night. Have a great day wherever you are around the world. Thank you.